Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Max Warframe. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Grineer Sniper rifle, the Vulkar, plus the new Syndicate mod for it, Lasting Purity. Now the Vulkar itself I've done a review video for a little while back. If you'd like to hear my thoughts on the weapon, I'll leave a link to the video in the description below. Instead, let's take a look at the new mod for it, Lasting Purity. This mod can be obtained from the new local Syndicate after obtaining the rank Pure from them, and can be bought for 25,000 standing. Much like the other Syndicate weapon mods that I've done videos on so far, namely the Burst on Prime and the Heck, the Lasting Purity mod charges an ability using affinity earned, around 2,000, either directly or passively, and when the meter down on the bottom right is full, it releases a blast of 1,000 corrosive damage in a very wide area, also healing your frame for 25% of its max HP. However, unlike the previous two mods, it's also got a third effect to it, which is that it's going to buff your health every time it procs as well. Now this is an awesome addition to any weapon, however the awesome effects of this mod are not done here. The part of the mod that is specific to the Vulkar is that the 60% dead aim. Now I can hear you guys asking, what is dead aim? Dead aim basically refers to a buff that you get while aiming down the sight. What this means is that shots not fired while scoped will not take advantage of that 60% more damage. Now this does run into a whole world of problems. Firstly, the amount of times where the scoping in is actually going to be advantageous is going to be minimal, purely just down to the size of most of the maps. Plus the fact that the Vulkar has got a pretty high powered scope to begin with, this means that in confined areas such as Grineer galleons or on the Corpus ships, the aiming down sight can actually make things very clunky and really narrows your vision, meaning you're not really as aware as what's going on around you, and could mean you don't see something that later gets you killed. Secondly is more of a problem with the sniper rifles in general, rather than a specific problem with the Vulkar, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay, so let's start to mod the Vulkar. Now as you can see, I've added 5 forma to this weapon. Pretty much this weapon comes with no polarities as standard, so you've got to add those in there just to reduce the point cost of a lot of these mods. So I've put on 4 V's and 1 dash, and that helps round out the build nicely. Now we've got a whole bunch of mods that are going to be the same between all 3 of the builds. I'm going to start off with Serration for damage, Split Chamber for multi-shot, we've got Heavy Caliber in there for more damage. We've got Vital Sense for crit damage, Point Strike for crit chance, and we've got Lasting Purity for the extra dead aim damage, the aiming down scope. Now against Grineer we're going to go with radiation damage, we're going to go with thermite rounds and high voltage for that. Now the awesome thing about these dual stat mods is that it gives you that radiation damage, but it also gives you a very nice status chance of 78%. So basically when the Vulkar doesn't kill in one shot, you've got a high percentage of getting that radiation proc on there, which can give you a little more time to try and bring up the follow-up shots, or even when you're in that fairly long reload. So let's have a look at the Corpus build. Same build again, but this time I would like to go with Malignant Force and Infected Clip to max out that toxin damage. Now the reason for this is the fact that there is 1300, with this build 1300 impact damage already on the weapon, which is brilliant against those shields as it is. So it's definitely worth putting that toxin damage on there just to cut through those shields and take out those fleshier units, things like your techs and your crewmen. I mean, you can, if you want, you can switch out the Infected Clip and the Malignant Force, and you can go with the dual stat mods. You can go with rhyme rounds and you can go with high voltage to bring up magnetic damage if you feel that's better for you against those more shielded units. Now let's have a look at the Void build. Same build again, except this time we're going with Malignant Force and high voltage. Again, those dual stat status weapons to bring up the status, plus the corrosive. The corrosive effect is very useful, which is why I like the status chance on this for the Void units, because it really helps to bring the armor values down on those enemies that you don't kill with one shot. So as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to talk a little bit about the main problem of this mod, which is actually sniper rifles in general. Snipers in this game really do not fulfill the role they're meant to be designed for. They're supposed to be high damage, high accuracy weapons designed for taking down heavy targets that are the most threat to your team. But they've really suffered from one main problem: the bows. The bow does everything that a sniper rifle does, but they just do it so much better. Let's compare the Dread to the Vulkar, for example. While the Vulkar gets double the amount of raw damage the Dread does, with 200 damage to the Dread's 100, the Dread gets the same crit damage multiplier and over double the crit chance. And what this means is, once you take into account all the crit mods, the Dread actually ends up with a crit chance of 125% and the Vulkar only a 50%. So while the Vulkar does double damage all the time, it only crits half of its shots, while the Dread's going to crit every single shot for double damage with a 25% chance to get a red crit, making it a 4 times multiplier. And this is where the Dread really streaks ahead. The problem with the fact that the snipers do not crit all the time means that if it doesn't crit, it doesn't kill. Whereas the bows really just outclass them at the job the snipers are designed for, taking out those heavy units with more damage, more accuracy since they don't have to rely on heavy caliber to boost the damage, so they're not going to kill even if they don't crit. Especially since the Dread can rely on a mod like Fanged Fusillade to boost its base slash damage by 120% and not lose the accuracy from heavy caliber. Admittedly, the 60% boost in damage that the Vulkar gets from Lasting Purity is very good, and it does help it out a lot, especially since it can kill even when not critting a lot more and up to higher level, and does make the Vulkar one of the most damaging sniper rifles. But I can't really recommend the Vulkar and this mod over something like the Dread. It's a shame. I love the sniper rifles and I love the Vulkar, but it just doesn't fit any real role within the game, especially when it's so outclassed by other weapons in the role that it was designed for. As always guys, thanks very much for watching. Please don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and I shall see you in the next episode.